It's my favorite part of the year where we make some preseason predictions. We're going to talk about 2024, the NASCAR Cup Series, all the changes that have been made over the offseason, all of the new drivers at different teams and all that stuff. And then finally, we will get to some predictions. I'm going to tell you who I think makes the playoffs. I'm going to tell you who I think makes the Final Four. And then finally, of course, the championship pick. And I'm going to do something a little different this year when I pick the champion. You'll see what I mean by that time. Now, the first thing I want to say is I think I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to launch a fantasy league. We're going to start a fantasy league. I'm going to put the link in the description. I'm going to put the link on a community post, but we're going to do a fantasy NASCAR league this year. So if you want to join, come on and join. It's all about having fun. I'll post the results in the community post every week, whoever's in the top 10 or whatever it may be. But I've always wanted to do that, have a fantasy NASCAR league. So this year we're going to do it. But let's get into the 2024 NASCAR season. Already had one race, a preseason race, the Clash at the Coliseum, won by Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, of course, has over 50 wins in his career, 3 Daytona 500s, but no championship yet. That will be one of the talking points today. But that is a storyline that we will talk about, but there are some other storylines we're going to talk about. It's NASCAR's 76th season. Obviously not as big of a deal as the 75th, but now that we have that number out there, I thought I would mention it. I got all this stuff in my notebook here. As for everything else, there are some big storylines heading into 2024, a good chunk of them about the NASCAR schedule. The first one we're going to talk about is the return of the Brickyard 400. The crown jewel returns to its glory. It was at the road course there for a few years, but the Brickyard 400 is back on the Indianapolis Oval for the first time since 2020. So that will be interesting to see how that race goes. It's first ever race with the next gen car. How will it race? And then also, who's going to win and all that stuff. I've got that prediction for you later in this video. Also, the NASCAR Cup Series is going to go to Iowa Speedway for the first time. It's a big add to the schedule. It'll be in the middle of June. It'll be a fun race, hopefully. So, as I said, first trip to Iowa for the NASCAR Cup Series. Hopefully, Iowa football legend Brian Ferentz is there. He knows how to run an offense. NASCAR Cup Series is going to Iowa. And then the next bit of schedule that is big is the change in the playoff schedule. The first round is completely different. We go Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Bristol, and then, of course, we have a cutoff. The second round just has one change. Instead of Texas being that first race, it's now Kansas. And then you go to Talladega in the Roval. So 2 road courses and 2 super speedways in the playoffs. And then everything else is the same. The round of 8 races will be Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, and the championship race remains at Phoenix. So some big changes to the playoffs in terms of those early rounds with 2 road courses and 2 super speedways, but basically everything else is the same. And then, of course, another big talking point will be Shane van Gisbergen has made the move from Australia to the United States. The 3-time Supercars champ is looking to win an Xfinity championship. He's going to be competing full-time in the Xfinity Series, but he's also going to be making some Cup Series starts as well, 7 of them in the Colleague number 16 car. Of course, his deal is through Trackhouse Racing, who he won the Project 91 car in Chicago last summer, but he's going to be racing for Colleague as lease in 2024. So that will be interesting to see how he does in both the Xfinity and Cup side of things. I've got a prediction for you there. And then another big move, another big change that's one of them's kind of driver, but it's mostly the team. Legacy Motor Club is in its first season as a Toyota team. So yes, that means Jimmy Johnson, 7-time champion who raced his entire career with Hendrick Motorsports, his entire career with a Chevy up until this point, will be driving a Toyota. He's only going to be part-time, but it's going to be really weird to see Jimmy Johnson drive a Toyota. The pictures of him in a Toyota fire suit are weird enough, but how will Legacy Motor Club, how will they transition into the Toyota program? How will they do in this first year of Toyota? There's a lot of question marks, but some of them are good question marks, so we'll see how they end up doing. And then this year, we have an actual Rookie of the Year battle. Of the past few years, there hasn't really been one, or it's been really weak. Like last year, we had Ty Gibbs in a Joe Gibbs racing car versus Noah Gragson in the Legacy Motor Club car. Gibbs was well ahead, and then Noah Gragson, of course, left Legacy Motor Club or, was fired, whatever it may be. And so there was no real Rookie of the Year battle. We knew it was over by June, and then, of course, it was officially over by July or August. So this year, we get an actual Rookie of the Year battle. Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, and Josh Berry all competing for that Rookie of the Year award. I don't think Noah Gragson is a rookie. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but if they still count him as a rookie, then, I guess he's in there. But as of now, I think it's just those three. So you got 2 Spire cars and a Stewart-Haas racing car. And this is why this battle is interesting, because Spire is on the rise. They're actually taking steps forward to become a better race team. They own a truck series team now. They've expanded their cup operations. They've got 2 young, talented rookies, whereas Stewart-Haas is going the other way. It's been a couple years since they've won. They haven't been in the championship in, I want to say, 5 years maybe. So it has been a big struggle for Stewart-Haas Racing the past few years. So those 2 teams are on different trajectories, and they all have rookies. So we'll see who wins that Rookie of the Year battle. And then, of course, we have the Ryan Blaney title defense. Every year in my book, whoever wins the championship the prior year, their title defense is important to me. How do they respond from winning a championship? Can they do what Jimmy Johnson did and win 5 straight? Now, in this format, that's not going to happen, but can they put up a formidable fight for their title defense? Or will they lay over like Joey Logano last year? We'll see how Ryan Blaney does in his title defense. Now, as for that Rookie of the Year battle, now we're going to go talk about some changes that have happened in the NASCAR Cup Series, and that all comes with the 3 drivers we just talked about, and then we'll get into some more driver changes. Zane Smith makes his Cup Series debut as a full-time driver in the number 71 Spire Motorsports car through a deal with Trackhouse. Carson Hocevar replaces Ty Dillon in the number 77 Spire car. Ty Dillon out of a ride. He is now in the Truck Series. And then Josh Berry replaces the retiring Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick, future Hall of Famer, stepped down away from the 4 at the end of 2023. Josh Berry is his replacement. Other driver moves, we've got Kaz Grala will be running the majority of the races in the number 15 car. We're also going to see Cody Ware maybe for a few races in that car. We're going to see Riley Herbst in the Daytona 500. Daniel Hemrick is going to be in the number 31 car. He replaces Justin Haley. Justin Haley now at the other Rick Ware Racing car in the number 51. He will be a full-time driver there. Speaking of Colleague, we've got Josh Williams, AJ Allmendinger, and Shane van Gisbergen as of now in the number 16 car. The number 16 car will be rotating drivers just like the Rick Ware Racing number 15. So they will be fighting for an owner's championship, but not quite the driver's championship. And then another big change, John Hunter Nemechek returns to the NASCAR Cup Series, this time in the Legacy Motor Club number 42. Of course, he made his Cup Series debut just a few years ago. He had his rookie season with Front Row Motorsports in the number 38 car, but after a year, decided to leave for KBM in the Truck Series and made his way back up to the Cup Series. And then, of course, the last one, Noah Gragson will drive the Stewart-Haas Racing number 10 car, replacing Eric Almirola, who's semi-retired. Almirola now a part-time Xfinity driver for Joe Gibbs Racing. So those are the big changes that you need to know for the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series changes. And this is the part of the video you've all been waiting for. It's time for some predictions. Now, I said this is one of my favorite videos of the year, and this is why. I enjoy laughing at myself. So come November, when we are looking back at this video, we are going to laugh at a lot of these predictions and how wrong I was. So I want you all to tell me what your predictions are in the comments. I want you to say who you think is going to win the championship, the Final Four, playoffs, whatever it may be. But we don't laugh at your comments. We only laugh at me. Don't worry. But I'm very curious to see what you have for your predictions for the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series. And then also, some other things. Whatever I mention here, if you want to say that in the comments. And first up, oh boy, I've got some bold predictions this year. And when I say bold, I mean this first one is the boldest of them all. And it is way out there. I give it a less than 0.5% chance of happening. But if it does happen, I am a genius. You will understand what I mean when I say it. My first bold prediction of 2024. Matt Kenseth will drive at least one race in the 84 car. Yes, or at least one race for Legacy Motor Club. Let me specify. He will drive at least one race for Legacy Motor Club. I don't know if they would switch the number or whatever. Matt Kenseth is an advisor at Legacy Motor Club. And, if he just says, what, I want to drive the car for a race, why not give it to him, Let him do it. Or, if Jimmy Johnson, something comes up on his schedule and he can't race, Matt Kenseth's right there. There you go, Matt Kenseth. Maybe he races a race in the 84. I know Corey Heim is their reserve driver, but my extremely bold prediction, the first one, Matt Kenseth to race one race for Legacy Motor Club. I know it's absurd. My next bold prediction, this is kind of a spoiler, I guess, for who I have in the playoffs, but, you'll figure that out later. I don't only think Ty Gibbs wins a race this year, I think he wins multiple races this year. That means 2 or more races, people. I think Ty Gibbs, he showed a lot of improvement through 2023, especially the late part of 2023, and I think Ty Gibbs wins multiple races this year. Another bold prediction, this is not as bold as the Matt Kenseth thing, obviously, and I don't even think it's as bold as predicting Ty Gibbs to win multiple races. I'd say it's on a scale of, mild to extremely spicy. This is medium. I think Shane van Gisbergen does win another Cup Series race, and I do think it happens on a road course. I don't know which road course it'll happen, but we know that he is competitive. He is very fast on the road course, or road courses. And we also know that 16 car is fast on the road courses. Of course, SVG won the Chicago Street Race last year, and the 16 car with AJ Allmendinger won at the Charlotte Roval last year. SVG's running on a few road courses this year. I think he picks up one win at a road course in the Cup Series this year. My next bold prediction, people predict this every year. This is the first time I'm properly predicting it. I think Martin Truex Jr. retires at the end of the 2024 season. I don't know. Not much else to it. There you go. And then finally, my other bold predictions. You'll learn those in a minute because they have to do with the playoffs. And I'm not going to spoil. I've already spoiled one playoff spot for you, but you're not going to get them all. You still got a few minutes to go. Now we're going to predict the majors, or the crown jewels of NASCAR. We do this every year. We highlight the crown jewel events, and then we also pick the winners for the inaugural events in NASCAR. So that's what we're going to do here. Daytona, the Coke 600, the Brickyard 400, the Southern 500, and I included the Bristol Night Race. I include that in terms of the crown jewels. And then, of course, we have a new track, Iowa, so I will predict that as well. So the first one I'm going to do is Iowa. There's no logic behind this one. I just picked Kyle Larson. Larson's fast. That's about all I got. I've got no other reason but Kyle Larson. Now for Daytona. Daytona, this one, usually I don't calculate. I could just kind of think, this guy runs good here. Sure, why not? I'm going to get this wrong. I usually get this wrong. I don't think I've ever picked a Daytona 500 correctly. So apologies to this fan base in advance, but I'm going to pick Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott's on a long winless streak, but for some reason, he's really good at the super speedways in the next-gen car. He's picked up a couple wins, one at Talladega, one at Atlanta. He's run really good at Daytona, but for some reason at Daytona, he's cursed in the 500. Like, he'll run great in the summer race, top 5, lead laps, win stages. But then when it comes to the Daytona 500, he crashes or he finishes like 13th. He had that second place in 2021. But I don't know. No logic, really. Well, I just gave you some logic, but Chase Elliott. There you go. As for the Coke 600, this guy came close to winning it last year. Ended up finishing second, I believe. Toyotas are really good at the mile-and-a-half tracks, and this guy is good at the mile-and-a-half tracks as well. Picked up a win on the style racetrack last year. I think Tyler Reddick wins the Coke 600 this season. As for the Brickyard 400, the return to the iconic venue, or the iconic oval, I should say. They were staying at the venue still with the road course. 1994, the first ever Brickyard 400. Jeff Gordon wins. 2004, Jeff Gordon wins. 2014, Jeff Gordon wins. So every year ending with a 4, Jeff Gordon has won. That's why I'm picking Jeff Gordon to win the 2024 Brickyard 400. Okay, not actually, but I think the 24, once again, wins with a year that ends in a 4. And I think William Byron wins the Brickyard 400. I think he continues the trend. If he does not, I will be sad. I initially wrote Denny Hamlin because Denny Hamlin is cursed at the Brickyard. And I crossed it out because I remembered it was a year that ended in 4. So I had to go with Jeff Gordon's old number, William Byron, to win the Brickyard 400. So to continue the 1994, 2004, 2014, 2024, the 24 wins, whatever year ends in 4. As for the Southern 500, we're going to go back to Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin, so good at Darlington, almost won this race last year, but a loose wheel on a late pit stop kind of ruined his day. I think they all get it together over there at Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think Denny Hamlin, Darlington's one of his best tracks. I think he wins the Southern 500. As for the Bristol Night Race, I wrote down Joey Logano. No real logic there, just Joey Logano. Now, these next two, I don't usually predict this, but I'm just going to predict it anyways, and I'm going to give you some odds with it. Whenever I pick a champion or a championship 4, you will get the odds with it. I'm not picking based on the odds value. Like, I'm not going to pick a guy at 16-1 because, oh, I like that value, and it could happen. I'm picking genuinely based off who I think is going to win, but then I'm going to tell you the odds. My Truck Series champion. I'm going for some redemption. I think he should have won it last year. He dominated the Truck Series, got screwed in that championship race because the format is dumb. I think Corey Heim redeems himself. He's at plus 240 odds. I think Corey Heim wins himself a Truck Series championship before eventually getting a promotion to the Xfinity Series. And then as for the Xfinity Series champion, I'm going to go with Sam Mayer at plus 550. Just because he had a really good year last year. It was a breakout year. He picked up a few wins, made it to his first championship 4. I think he takes another step forward, wins multiple races yet again, and I think he wins his first ever Xfinity Series championship. Now this is it. The Cup Series Playoffs. I have 16 names written down, and I got to be honest with you. I did not write down name number 16 until about 10 minutes before I recorded this video. I had written down all the guys I had as locks, some guys I thought I was pretty confident could get in, but there was this last few spots, the last one spot that I had narrowed down to 2 guys, and I had to sleep on it. I had to go to bed, sleep on it, wake up the next morning, walk around, sweat, sit in a corner, cry before I eventually made that choice. Now let's go through the locks first. These guys, I said this last year and it actually happened. The only way I see these guys missing the playoffs is if there is an injury or the world ends or we have 17 winners and 4 of them are 23rd and through 27th in points, And so that would be a very long shot for them to miss the playoffs. Those locks are the defending champion Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Raj Chastain, Kyle Busch, and Tyler Reddick. I think those guys should be able to make it in. No stress whatsoever unless there is 18 winners, as I said, or unless they miss 8 or 9 races. The next 3 guys I'm about to mention, I did not quite have them in that lock category just because I think I need to explain them a little bit more because some people do still doubt them. But I am fairly confident that they make the playoffs. I think, just like these locks, I think they should make it without stress. But, you never know. Those 3 guys are Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, and Alex Bowman. Now, the RFK cars obviously took a huge step forward last year. Both cars made the playoffs. Chris Buescher won 3 races and made it to the round of 8. But ultimately, that was their one year. Other than that, it's been kind of a struggle for RFK. I know they won the Bristol Night Race in 2022 with Chris Buescher, but it's been a tough decade. But I do think they back up that 2023 season. I think both drivers win races, and I think both of them have a good shot to make a playoff run, a deep playoff run. And then as for Alex Bowman, there's been a lot of Alex Bowman doubt out there, which is surprising to me. The guy's won 7, 8 career Cup Series races, and obviously after that back injury last year, he just was not right. He was leading the points up until his injury, and then once the injury hit, he just was never back in his early season form. Denny Hamlin talked about it a bit on his podcast. He had a similar injury back in 2013, And he said it took him more than a season to get back into that form. And I think Bowman, with some offseason recovery time, with some time to kind of revamp, revitalize, relook at the season, look forward a new season, that kind of thing, I think Bowman will win a race at least, and I think he makes the playoffs with no stress. So that is 14 spots in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. And then, of course, one of them I already spoiled, so let's get this out of the way. No need to drag this one out. Ty Gibbs, I said earlier in this video, I think he wins multiple races. I know he missed the playoffs last year, but he was a rookie, and, rookie things happen. But Ty Gibbs, I think he takes a huge step forward this year. I think he wins multiple races, and I think he makes the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. As for this last spot, I have a list of legit contenders, and that is down to 9 guys. And then I have my long shots. I'm going to go ahead and give you those long shots. These long shot guys, respectfully, I think the only way they make the playoffs with a win. And if they win, they will be in the 20s in the points, and that is the only way they get in. Those guys are Josh Berry, Noah Gragson, Harrison Burton, Daniel Hemrick, Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland, Ryan Preece, John Hunter Nemechek, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Justin Haley, Zane Smith, and Carson Hocevar. Those are all, these are good drivers, yes, but I just don't think the equipment helps them in the long run. And I don't think that they make the playoffs. It's going to take a win. And I think I said this about Stenhouse and McDowell last year, and that ended up being the case, and that ends up blowing up my playoff bracket. So if one of them wins, my bracket's ruined. As for the legit contenders for this final spot, I have written down Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, Ty Gibbs, who I already put in the playoffs. I don't know why he's there. Corey LaJoie, and Daniel Suarez. I will say this is a tough one, this last playoff spot, because the majority of these guys, I think everyone but LaJoie on this list is a Cup Series winner, and they have won in the last 3 years. Austin Cindric won the 2022 Daytona 500. Austin Dillon has a few Cup Series wins. Chase Briscoe won at Phoenix 2 years ago. Bubba Wallace won at Kansas 2 years ago. Eric Jones won the Southern 500 2 years ago. Daniel Suarez won at Sonoma 2 years ago. So all these guys have shown that they're capable of winning, with the exception of LaJoie, and they have shown that recently. Now, the reason I put LaJoie in this list is because I do believe in Spire Motorsports. I think that they take a step forward this year in terms of competitiveness, and I think Corey LaJoie is going to have his breakout year in terms of statistics, in terms of the numbers. But ultimately, I don't think he wins a race. Therefore, I think he falls short. But I do expect a very good year for Corey LaJoie. I expect, a top 23 in the points. As for these other guys, it was tough. But ultimately, I don't think Suarez makes it. And I think that's crushing for him. I don't think Austin Cindric makes it. I know he is in a Penske car. He should be in the playoffs. But ultimately, he just hasn't shown me enough to put him in the playoffs. Austin Dillon, I know RCR's taken some big steps these past couple of years, but I think he needs to win to get into the playoffs. I think he can point his way in, but ultimately I think he falls short. Chase Briscoe, Stewart-Haas Racing is just not good right now. I don't think he makes it. That leaves us down to 2 guys. These are the guys I stressed over. 1 playoff spot, Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones. Both of these guys are proven that they can win in the Cup Series. They both have multiple wins in the Cup Series. They both have wins recently in the Cup Series. They both won with their respective teams in the Cup Series. And it's tough because I think both of these guys are capable of winning a race this year. But the fact of the matter is, yes, both of them could win. But look at the list I just provided you with of who I have in the playoffs. I think all those guys are capable of winning. The fact of the matter is there's only 16 spots. I can't put 17 guys in there unless they 2013 Jeff Gordon this thing, which I don't think they would. This is tough. Once again, I slept on it. I thought about it, but ultimately, between Eric Jones and Bubba Wallace, the last spot I gave to was Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, he made the playoffs for the first time last season. And I think the big thing is he has been at that team for a few years, just like Eric Jones has, but they have been with Toyota the whole time. Eric Jones is back into Toyota. Legacy Motor Club is in a Toyota. And yes, that could be a big step forward for them. I think Eric Jones will run great this year. And I think he's capable of winning a race. And if he makes the playoffs, I will not be shocked. But there could be growing pains. There's a couple of question marks there. I'm not doubting that team and their competitiveness, but just a manufacturer change can be a struggle. You know, sometimes it's a home run out of the park, like we saw with Stewart Haas Racing early on. We've seen it happen with Joe Gibbs Racing. But this first year, the question is, with a manufacturer change in the next gen era, how is that going to affect Legacy Motor Club early on? I'm optimistic personally, but there is a couple question marks. And I just think Bubba Wallace straight up wins a race this year. He's so good at the 1.5 mile tracks. He's figured it out there. He has figured out how to run fast at Kansas. He's figured out how to be fast at Vegas. Tracks like that. And I think ultimately he wins one of those races. Texas is in the spring now. He almost won that race last fall. I think he wins at 1.5 miles in the regular season and gets himself into the playoffs. So that is why I gave Bubba Wallace my final playoff spot over Eric Jones. Is ultimately he's on a winless streak, and I think that streak is going to get snapped some point in the regular season at 1.5 miles. So therefore, Bubba Wallace in my playoffs. So that means my 16 playoff drivers are Ryan Blaney, the defending champion, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, and Bubba Wallace. Those are my 16 playoff drivers. And we have narrowed a 34 driver field down to 16 playoff spots. It's time to narrow it once again to the final 4. And once again, it was a struggle. I will say, usually I predict my champion, or I have my champion in my head at the end of November. Season ends in early November, and I'm like, all right, who's going to win the championship next year? Who's running well in 2023? Blah, blah, blah. And then by the end of November, I'm like, okay, I've settled on a guy. Let's order the hat. Let's get it done, and then we'll have it. We'll have our guy. This year, it took longer to pick a champion. Now, this format is fluky, and I'm going to be honest, it would take a little bit of luck for me to pick the championship right. I got it right once in 2020 with Chase Elliott. Since then, it has usually been dramatic failure. Like last year, I picked Tyler Reddick. I think he was out in the round of 12. 2 years ago, I picked Kyle Larson. He was out in the round of 12. 1 year, I think 21, I picked Truex, and he finished second, so that was close. But we're not even to the championship pick yet. But the point being is one of these 4 guys will be my champion, and more than likely, it will fail. Because, once again, in my opinion, I just don't like this format. But you've been waiting long enough. I've been stalling long enough. Let's get to my championship 4 picks. Championship 4, spot number 1, Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is sitting at plus 120 in terms of going to the championship 4. And here's why I think Larson makes the championship 4. Kyle Larson, in the prime of his career, however long it lasts, will win 3+ races, more than likely, almost every single year. He is a talented driver, a highly talented driver who can win on a variety of racetracks, 1.5 miles, road courses, short tracks. I already said 1.5 miles. I almost said intermediates again. The only place he can't win, super speedways, which is my concern in the early stages of the playoffs. But as I said, if he's winning multiple races, winning stages, he's going to have enough playoff points to squeak on by through the first 2 rounds. And if he gets to that round of 8, he's a contender for the win all 3 of those races. Vegas, he won last fall. He has multiple wins at that Las Vegas track. In the next gen era, he runs top 3 almost every single race at Las Vegas. The only time he didn't is when he got wrecked out by Bubba Wallace in 2022 in the fall. Kyle Larson at Las Vegas is so good. And then that's not even talking about one of his best tracks, Homestead, Miami. Homestead, Miami, he is a top 2 car driver, whatever it may be, at that track every single year, unless he drives into the back of the sand barrels. But Kyle Larson, those 2 tracks alone, I am confident that he can win one of those. And then the 3rd race, Martinsville, I used to have no confidence in him at that racetrack, but he won there last year. He's improved his short track game in terms of the Cup Series, especially Martinsville. He could win any one of those 3 races. Now, my second pick, I think Christopher Bell makes his third consecutive championship 4 race. He's currently sitting at plus 160 odds, but Christopher Bell, he is quietly consistent. I've been saying this for years on this channel. He doesn't do it flashy. He does not go out there and win 7 races every year. He doesn't go out there and absolutely whip the field, but he is quietly consistent. He'll be top 5 in points most of the year. He'll rack up 7th, 8th place finishes, get a win every once in a while, get a top 5 every couple of weeks. But Christopher Bell, he's quietly consistent. He's going to be up there in the regular season standings, pick up some bonus points from there. I think he wins multiple races this year again. And ultimately, I think that round of 8, kind of like Kyle Larson, suits him well. He's won at Homestead, Miami. He's won at Martinsville. He was a lap away from winning at Las Vegas last fall. Christopher Bell has a good set of lineup or tracks in that round of 8, and I think he makes it to the Final 4. But like Larson, I am concerned that those early rounds, the super speedways, could bite him. Christopher Bell, just like Kyle Larson, a talented road racer, a talented short track racer, and of course, really good at the intermediates, but the super speedways are not good for him. So now having multiple super speedways makes this even more fluky, and I'm probably going to miss both of these guys because of it. Now, as for my third guy, I'm not going to lie. There's a little bit less logic with this one, but the numbers do not lie. Joey Logano makes the Final 4 every even-numbered year. 2014, 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022. Guess what year it is? 2024, baby. It's 2024. Joey Logano is going to make the Final 4. He misses it in the odds. He makes it in the evens. It is almost guaranteed success at this point, but watch this be the year that he actually misses the Final 4 in an even-numbered year. But Joey Logano, I think he makes it back. He had a massive championship hangover last year. He only had 1 win on the season, was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. Ugh, disgusting. But I think he bounces back this year. I think he wins multiple races again. And ultimately, he's a better super speedway racer than those first 2 guys, so maybe he'll take advantage of it. But Joey Logano, it's an even-numbered year. I believe in the numbers, and the numbers tell me to put Joey Logano in my Final 4 in an even-numbered year. That leaves 1 spot left. You're not going to believe the 2 guys I have this narrowed down to. Denny Hamlin is one of them. And you're going to say, okay, that's not a shock. But, oh, here we go. The Denny Hamlin talk. Denny Hamlin, it's his year, blah, blah, blah. They say that every year. And then my second guy, Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski for Denny Hamlin for this final spot. Denny Hamlin has made the Final 4, 5 times in his career? In the last 2 years, he has lost it in the stupidest ways. In 2022, in the middle of turn 4, he had it. He had a 3.4 point advantage on Ross Chastain. It would take a miracle for him to not make the Final 4. Oh, and there goes Ross Chastain on the wall. Never happened in NASCAR. It will never happen again. And there's Denny Hamlin watching it knock him out of the playoffs. Maybe the stupidest way to get eliminated from the Final 4 contention. And then last year, it was not as stupid, but once again, it was kind of fluky. Denny Hamlin, comfortably, points ahead of the Final 4. And something explodes in his car, and he crashes with like 20 to go at Homestead, putting him in a bad situation going to Martinsville. Ryan Blaney wins. William Byron had the points advantage. And then Denny Hamlin eliminated from playoff contention. So, does Denny Hamlin make the Final 4 for the first time since 2021? Does Brad Keselowski make the Final 4 for the first time since 2020? Make the Final 4 for the first time with RFK? Is it Denny Hamlin's year? Is RFK back? Such a tough choice. I'm so sorry to give you hope, Denny Hamlin fans, but I'm going with the bold prediction that Brad Keselowski makes the first championship 4 in RFK history. Why? Here's why. RFK has been making those steps forward, as I've been saying. And by the way, plus 350 odds for those of you counting at home. RFK has been taking those steps forward. They have been great at the short tracks and the super speedways, which has been, as I said, it's their strength. It's what they're really good at. But they've struggled at the intermediates. They took a big step forward on the intermediates. At the end of the season, Brad Keselowski was on the front row in qualifying for a couple of races. He led a ton of laps at Las Vegas. He finished top 5, top 10 in multiple races at these mile and a halves. They're making a big step forward. And if he can continue to run top 5, top 10, and even if he doesn't have the playoff points, I think he can win Martinsville. He's a great short track racer. Martinsville's a great track for him. The short tracks are great for Ford. I think Brad Keselowski, even if he's in a must-win situation entering Martinsville, he can get it done. So that is why my 2024 Championship 4, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski. It's a little bit of a bold one. It's a little bit out there to leave 3 Hendrick Motorsports guys out, to leave 3 Joe Gibbs Racing guys out, and to have an RFK car in there. I'm a little bit crazy, I'll admit. But now it's time. The notebook is shut. You know my final 4. It's time for a championship 4, or a champion, I should say, pick. Now, normally I pick. I got a hat sitting over here. I got my 4 hats lined up. But the fact of the matter is, I did not come up with my champion until about a week ago. And ultimately, that I wasn't able to get a hat in time. So we're going to do this Oscar style. I'm going to get all dressed up, and I've got an envelope with my championship pick there. So let me go get all fancy and present this thing like an Oscar. Airplane food, am I right? Yeah, the great comedy of Sam Hornish Jr., everyone. Give it up. Give it up for Sam Hornish Jr. Give it up. Yeah. Great comedian here. But yes, it is the time that we have all been waiting for. The NASCAR awards are over. We've handed out so many NASCARs today, as they call them. And now, for the ultimate moment, the championship category of NASCAR. Here are your nominees: Christopher Bell, Joe Gibbs Racing; Kyle Larson, Hendrick Motorsports; Joey Logano, Team Penske; and finally, our final nominee, Brad Keselowski, RFK Racing. And now, thank you, Sam Hornish. Give it to me. Goodness. So greedy. I have in my hands the winner of our final NASCAR. And the NASCAR goes to Christopher Bell, Joe Gibbs Racing. But yes, that is my 2024 NASCAR preview and predictions. I hope you enjoyed that little bit. I know it might have been weird, cringeworthy, but I didn't have a hat. I needed to come up with something creative, and I figured if I print Christopher Bell's number onto a piece of paper and present it like an Oscar, it might be funny. I don't know. But ultimately, that is my championship pick. As for why, he's been doubted so much in his career, as I have said multiple times. He's been looked beyond, I guess. And I've been like, you know what? This is finally going to be his time to take over and win a NASCAR championship. I think Christopher Bell wins his first ever NASCAR Cup Series championship in 2024. So once again, let me know what your championship pick is in the comments. Let me know your Final Four picks. Let me know your playoff picks. And I'm looking forward to the 2024 NASCAR season, just 1 week away from the Daytona 500. We got qualifying, the duels, all this week. We will be talking about it here on the channel. I'm excited for it. I hope you're excited for it too. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. So thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great day.